Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 as we get closer to the NFL Draft, the new week here on Birds 365. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the number one Eagles beat reporter in town. For those checking in today, we are 10 days away from the NFL Draft. 10 days away, 10 short days away. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Doing well. Closer, 1 week out. And it's officially the kickoff of WrestleMania week. So it's getting closer.
Yeah.
The NFL draft mainly for this show, but and thankfully, because always at this point you're at where the overhyped portion and this guy's going up boards, this guy's going down boards. I'm like, hey, come on, guys, stop.
Yeah, I'm already seeing the trend emerging of, I saw on NBC this morning, they do a little recap of like where everybody picks a player for the Eagles on their various mocks throughout the inner workings of the internet. A lot of Walter Nolan popping up and a lot of James Pierce. So I don't know if those guys are even realistic, but in mock draft season, they seem to be. So we will see how it all shakes out. As we mentioned, just 10 days away from the first round of the NFL draft. I happen to think 11 days away is going to be a much more significant day for the Philadelphia Eagles with round 2 and round 3 on that Friday night. But we will lead up. We will cover it all on the lead up. We will break down some of the best prospects. John, we're going to follow along for those who read all your work at Sports Illustrated. We're going to do some of your previews as well. You've been previewing each position group in the draft. So we're going to do that. It's our typical Monday, everybody. So we'll have Jeff Kerr coming up here in a little bit. A couple things to recap, though, from the weekend in the sports world. No new Eagles news this weekend, really, but obviously some NFL news. The Masters, John, the Masters kicked off. I got my Masters hat on. No, I did not go to the Masters. My brother was invited to the Masters, and he picked me up this hat, so I thought I'd rock it on this Monday edition of Birds 365. But did you happen to catch the Masters? It was a good finish.
I was out. I read about it, and all congratulations to Rory hitting the Grand Slam, so to speak, which obviously is very difficult. To me, I went straight to the Jalen Hurts comparison because when most people have some bad moments and then are able to bounce back and win in the end. I think it's a trait. I think it's rare. Usually when something poor happens, a lot of people, I don't like the term choke, but that's what every term, what people use. But it's very difficult for people to bounce back in those types of situations. And when you're able to do it and persevere, it's always impressive. Always impressive to me.
Yep, that was that. John, you can say that, and that applies to the macro and the micro for Rory. I mean, the macro is that it's years in the making, and the micro was, boy, yesterday was an up and down day of golf. Unbelievable final round. I see Joe Whipp saying insane ending. It was a truly insane ending. I've never seen a Masters final day like that, Joe, where the scorecard just up and down, big swings, multiple shot swings on every hole. It was pretty insane, and Rory did get it done in the playoffs. So. Pretty great Masters for those who enjoy that. Not many, maybe not many of us enjoy that, but I do certainly enjoy it.
I think a lot of people do. I got a hat too. I should have put it on. I didn't think, well, I don't even know where it is at this stage.
Well, I brought it up on Friday, on the show that my brother was going to be there because he went on Friday. And I had people in the chat, golf, are you kidding me? Golf. I'm like, man, it's the Masters. It's a great event. It's one of my favorite televised sports events.
Yeah, I'm surprised. A lot of people like the Masters.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
It's great. It's a great tournament, man. It really is. It's a good tournament. But I see, not everybody likes that.
If you don't like
snooty golf, there is a little bit of that reputation that exists in golf. And I don't think it's unfair, some of that snootiness, but all good. Great tournament in the Masters there yesterday. We've been talking some Phillies. They've been struggling a little bit now here, but gotta give it some time. Johnny Mac, let's get into the draft a little bit as we're 10 days out. Has anything changed in your mind on this draft? We've been talking about it a lot as we lead up to it. I think it's a trade up or trade out, obviously, scenario. I don't think they picked there at 32. I think that's the more likely option. And everybody's thinking that way. But has anything changed for you as we get closer to the draft, as more stuff comes out about the players? You start to get a better feel, at least, as we get a little bit closer. What's changed for you, Johnny Mac?
No, nothing's changed, but still a trenches draft, offensive line, defensive front, more likely defensive front early because of how many bodies there's going to be. Um, yeah, I think the more likely scenario, most likely scenario remains trade out. But we talked about it. Part of the reasons why, and we were talking before we came on, a lot of you saw a lot of people saying, Walter Nolan, James Pierce, guys like that who are projected to go a little bit higher than the Eagles. But there's a lot of uncertainty in this draft from, there's no concrete. There's a lot of similar grades. And if you fall in love with Donovan Ezeraku instead of James Pierce, you might take him at 15. Or you might, more teams probably like James Pierce, but Cleveland Farrell. I always go back to Mike Mayock. Not his best moment, but surprised everybody taking him at number 4 overall. So, it's all about the individual teams, and there's more uncertainty because there's less concrete prospects in this draft than typically, and you can make an argument that Walter Nolan's the most talented defensive tackle in the draft. So what the hell would he be at number 32? Well, he's maybe the most talented defensive tackle in this draft from a physical standpoint, but he's not Aaron Donald. There's a lot of uncertainty with this draft, and especially from 20 to 50. So if you're the Eagles and you can get a similar player at 50 as 32 and pick up some much extra added value that you can use to do something else,
right.
Why not do that? But as I've heard, and a number of people, national people have heard, everybody's looking to move down.
Yeah, I saw that Diana Rossini report as well about everybody wants to get out of there, not move up.
Yeah. I've been talking about that for a couple of weeks. And if everybody wants to go up, it's going to be difficult to go down. Excuse me. It's going to be difficult to find people that want to go up, but you only need one. And that's what Howie's great at.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll see what ends up happening there. John, if they're not able to move back, I mean, they're going to obviously have to have a good player in mind, or at least a good list of players, which they will do. I'm not saying they're not doing their homework leading up to the draft, but it is an interesting draft board. You could argue, John, it's a good year to be picking 32 overall in the draft. They need it, but the difference is the Birds need an impact player this year. They really do. They need a guy that can play on a rookie contract that they're going to get value out of, because they got massive deals coming, massive contracts coming, and if they don't get some rookie production, they're going to have a hard time.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, they have such a standard now that people expect greatness of this team, and I guess if that's the standard, they probably need a contributor. But they're going to be a good team. It's just a matter of how good. So, so I guess that's sort of how do you frame it? If you want to keep playing it, Jeffrey Lurie threw it out there, and I think it's not unrealistic, or you can make some argument for some other teams, but the team you just watched was one of the best teams of the modern era. I think that's fair to say. So if that's your standard, it's going to be very difficult to match. I mean, but if your standard is, are they still a good team? Yes, they're still a good team. And so that kind of depends on how you look at it. But
Yeah,
nothing they do is not going to make them a bad team.
Yeah, I understand that. But I will say, I mean, the majority of Eagles fans listening right now, John, if you're in the chat and you're listening, we appreciate you for being here. I mean, they're looking at this offseason as, how do we repeat? Whether that's fair or not, and I'm not saying you're wrong that they're still a great team and that, sometimes expectations go through the roof. But look, everybody wants to win the prize. I mean, you're not always going to. I think everybody understands that, but that's the goal. So that's how people are viewing this offseason is, how do we put ourselves in a position to repeat? And the way to do that is to hit on the draft pick, because let's be real, they're shedding money and they shed some players because of the contracts, because of where they're going and what they have coming up. So if they can't lock down a good player in the NFL draft, that chance at repeating, in my opinion, will be much harder.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I said. If that's your only goal, if it's Ricky Bobby rules, and a lot of
Well,
people it is Ricky Bobby rules. I'm not saying it isn't. And
I
if
know, but do
it's
you think fans want to be fans and be like, all right, if you get second, I'll be proud? Yeah, that's not really the way fandom works, though.
Well, I agree with that too, but that's not necessarily how I look at it, So I'm just explaining, and that's not how NFL teams look at it. So they're a good team. It's just a matter of how good are they going to be, and that's going to be the draft picks are not only the first round pick, but pretty much the premium picks. You want to hit on those guys relatively early, and you want them to at least contribute. That's pretty much everybody, though,
Right.
and that doesn't change. But from the standpoint of this team needs its first round pick to do this or do that, I don't think they need anything. They're in a good position, but they got to find answers at certain positions, and that could come from trades. It could come from signings, free agent signings. It could come from a bunch of different avenues, as Howie's tried to explain. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they got a hit on the 32nd pick in the draft. If they got a hit on the 32nd pick in the draft, and again, depending on the definition of hit, I don't like their chances because you're picking 32nd. In a good draft, I don't like their chances because you're picking 32nd.
Right.
In this draft, which I'm not exactly enamored by, I like their chances less. Doesn't mean they can't, but even if you look at Nolan Smith a couple years ago at number 30, same range, took a while. Didn't even play really, except
Right.
on special teams during this rookie season. So I think people have to sort of be more realistic about it.
Yeah. Well,
Which
the other
may
thing,
be
John.
boring, but it's
No, it is, but I
realistic.
hear you. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. The other thing, though, I think that has slanted people is, I mean, you talk about the success of this team. If you look at the top two picks in the last four drafts, all right, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean last year. You could even go top three picks. Quinyon, Cooper, Jalix Hunt. The 2023, it was Jalen Carter at 9, Nolan Smith at 30, Tyler Steen at 65. You had 2022, you had Jordan Davis and Cam Jurgens and Nakobe Dean at 13, 51, and 83, respectively. And then in 2021, you had Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams. So, yeah, whether it's right or it's wrong, fans have become spoiled, John, in terms of they're expecting good players in the draft, man. They're on a good run of
Well,
selecting good players.
they've had a great run, but
Yeah.
remember, where people tend to be revisionists. I talk about it all the time. Remember where the same people were with Nolan Smith when he wasn't playing. People still think there's a bunch of people who still think Jordan Davis can't play. Remember, Cam Jurgens was ripped because he was a luxury pick at the time, didn't play as a rookie. Nakobe Dean was labeled a bust by many. Milton Williams was okay until he was very good.
Yeah.
For a lot of
Gotta give
these
these
guys,
time. I mean, even me. I mean, if I don't like Nolan Smith after 1 year, what the heck does that mean? You know what I mean? My opinion in that regard is not largely relevant. Nobody makes a career in 1 year, so you got to give these guys time. And anybody who's been given time here has proven that they're worth something.
yeah, I agree. They've done a tremendous job in the draft. And then, you talk about regression to the mean, and maybe you have to worry a little bit about that because Jalen Reagor exists, Andre Dillard exists,
Right.
Davion Taylor exists, JJ Arcega-Whiteside exists. They've had bad picks as well. Everybody does.
Yeah. Now those are all 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying I wonder if there's something that's changed, John, in the last couple of years that they've done differently
Well,
or that they learned.
I think the Rager pick was a crossroads
Yeah.
for Howie. I've explained it numerous times, but there's still some, it's been a tremendous run for Howie at the top of the draft, premium pick. So burst through third rounds. It's been phenomenal. Tough to bat 1,000.
No, it is. There's no doubt it is. But whatever the process they've done the last 4 years, 4 years has worked very well. So we will see what they end up doing in the draft this year. We have Jeff Kerr coming up here in just a minute. One thing I wanted to hit on here in the open, just kind of pay our respects, John. Did you see the passing of Kyren Lacy, who was declared for the NFL draft in a couple of weeks? Sad story. I don't want to start on a sad note on a Monday morning, but I did want to hit on that news in the NFL world. Just your thoughts on the passing of Kyren Lacy and that story.
Yeah, it's a terrible story. I mean, it should also be. I've seen a lot of people focus on mental health and things like that. And anytime you see a young person commit suicide, I'm not trying to downplay that aspect of it, but I do think people need to understand what situation this kid put himself in, and the fact that he was, much like Jalen Carter, driving recklessly, causing a fatality, and he was set to go to a grand jury today for that crime. And then he had some arguments, evidently, with family members, and he was driving recklessly again. Police were chasing him. Decides to end his life during that chase. I mean, it's such a sad story, but I think people need to say, because this has been an issue, and I've talked about it, and I've defended Jalen Carter from the standpoint of, I don't think it should define your life if you make a mistake. I'm not trying to downplay it at all, as you see with this.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, somebody's got to teach these kids to stop doing this, because it's not only Jalen Carter and Kyren. This is consistent. And I don't know if it's young people with money and cars or whatever it is. And I'm not claiming to have the answer, but my God, if you got that much money and you got the ability to get these cars, go rent a racetrack. Go do it in a controlled environment. Go 150.
Yeah.
Don't do it on the highway with other, drivers. Boy, it's frustrating. And it's a sad story. But I mean, the desperation, I can't confirm it to, I can't automatically draw the line to mental health, because I know there's a lot of mental health issues in this country. But when you have a grand jury indictment looming,
right,
and the day before you're having these issues, I gotta believe that contributed.
Yeah, there's no
to his
doubt.
decision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you educate these kids? I don't know. They have so many problems at Georgia. They've had so many to go far beyond Jalen Carter. It's not just Georgia. You see it with,
the one that hits most
Cowboys. Rasheed
Henry
Rice,
Ruggs, John. That's the one that pops in my brain.
Henry Ruggs, Jordan Addison. Henry Ruggs is he's in prison for.
Yeah, that story was terrible, man.
On and on and on and on. Xavier Worthy, Rasheed Rice. Henry's the worst, and people actually take lives. It's crazy, and I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer, but we're going to keep seeing these incidents if it happens, whether it's these kids killing others, or in this case, not willing to accept the responsibility and just saying it's easier to tap out.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's incredibly sad, but
no doubt. Yep.
It's terrible.
You're right. That's not the full story. It's sad. There's no doubt about it. As John mentioned, it's very sad, but something's got to happen here with it. And I don't know what the answer is either, John. I really don't. But I know that it's a very sad story. And as you pointed out, it's not an uncommon instance. So something's got to give here with these stories and something. But we will see We will see if anything does. And obviously, we pray for the loss, or pray for his family and everybody there. For Holy Week, I'll be sending up prayers to the other people who were affected with the other accident, and everybody who's involved in the situation. But very sad story, and I did want to address that here on the show today. We have Jeff Kerr coming up in a little bit. Johnny Mac, we will take a quick commercial break. I was going to skip it and get to Kerr, but I don't see him just yet, so we will get to him after the break. I appreciate and thank everybody for being here this morning. 10 days out from the NFL draft. All right. 10 days out from the NFL draft. So moving right along, getting closer to that first round. We'll lead up to it, cover it all leading up to the NFL draft. So stay tuned, everybody, on Birds 365. We'll be right back.